Welcome to the Amusing Show's WrestleMania pregame spectacular, Volume 2. Yes, it's our second WrestleMania show, and joining us, as always, is our producer slash sidekick, Chris Toll. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing excellent.
That's very good, and we have with us a very special guest again this year. Joining us is your former roommate.
Yeah.
Ish, yeah.
That's right.
Ish. Down the hall.
Yeah.
Down the hall, and my close personal longtime friend, Mr. Greg Baker.
Why, hello, everybody out there in Radio Land.
That's right.
Or Podcast Land.
Podcast land, yeah.
Podcast land.
I already screwed up.
YouTube
Internet land.
That's right. So, Greg, you are, by your own admission, and I'll give this to you, a great wrestling aficionado, wouldn't you say?
Yes. It's
Hence why we have you on the show right now.
Yeah, I've always loved it. Just as a kid, like, it's one of those things where it's, as you get older, it's a little bit more embarrassing to admit, but I love it still.
There's no cool way to tell a girl, oh, yes, I'm a big wrestling fan.
So actually, I want to dig in here.
Oh, please do.
The Royal Rumble.
Yes.
Oh,
What were your
God.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
Well, can I preface this with something fun about the Royal Rumble?
No, no entertainment that is allowed on this show, so nothing
I
fun.
had no other way of describing it, but basically, so because I'm such a mark for this stuff, like I love wrestling. The two pay-per-views that I 100% have to watch live every single year are Royal Rumble and WrestleMania.
Of course.
And the Royal Rumble happened to coincide with a vacation that me and three of my other like good friends took to Florida, and I was telling them I'm like, you know, guys, I gotta watch this Royal Rumble tonight. So, and they're like, they used to watch it as kids, so like for them, they're just like, fuck yeah, let's watch the Royal Rumble. You know what I mean? So like we ended up buying these tiny little liquor bottles. And we made a drinking game out of the Royal Rumble. So we bought 30 liquor bottles, 30 of those little samplers, and 4 of us, okay? And the way we did it is we drew out of a hat entry order. And so if I was entry number 1, the first person who came in was my guy. And if they eliminated somebody, if they got eliminated, you had to do a shot, and the next person who came in was your guy. Oh. So... I mean, I was pretty lucky for the most part. I had Bray Wyatt.
Oh, jeez. He came in, what, number 7 or 8 or something like that, right?
Yeah, something like that. And he stayed in there, like, the longest.
He was there till the very end, yeah.
Yeah, but, like, I was so angry about the Daniel Bryan thing, but I expected it. I mean, Vince
You expected that to happen?
Oh, 100%. I didn't expect him... I expected him to be in the Final 4.
Yeah.
But... I expected him not to win. I knew they were going to go with this Roman Reigns thing, and God, is he terrible.
Well, we're going to get into that, but I was in the same boat. It was a long shot that Daniel Bryan would win it, but I expected, like you, that he would have at least lasted to the very end. And Chris had mentioned on one of our previous shows that would be the ideal way to sell people on this Roman Reigns experiment, would be to have Bryan and Reigns, the last two in the ring. They go at it for about, what would you say, 10 minutes, was it? And then he throws him out. Not this, gets him thrown out of there.
Like 30 seconds?
Yeah, it was
Maybe
it was a criminally short amount of time.
Yeah.
Made him look like a geek, and they made everybody look like a geek. They made Dean Ambrose look bad. Yep. They made Ziggler look bad. Even Bray Wyatt looked bad by the end of it.
Every one of them came out of that in worse form.
Yeah,
like everyone. Like I mean, it's like especially somebody like Dolph Ziggler, who looked like he was finally going to get his shot for a while with the way that he was being booked, while Roman Reigns was off with the injury and while Daniel Bryan was off with the injury. Like that Survivor Series, like where he was the sole survivor and won it for the entire team. It was like, man, they're finally actually going to push Ziggler, because I know he's known for shooting off his mouth in the back, like about his frustrations about like where he is on the card, and it seemed like it too good to be true. And then Vince walked in. All right, Roman Reigns is ready to go. Get out of here, kid.
Let me ask you something about the Survivor Series. Had Roman Reigns not been on the injury reserve list, don't you suspect that he would have been the sole survivor in that match?
100%.
Exactly.
110%.
That was a bone being thrown to Ziggler.
And you did, like, everybody keeps comparing Roman Reigns to John Cena. John Cena's a far better worker than Roman Reigns is, on the mic and in the ring.
Well, let's talk about on the mic for a second, because everyone who has been at least following this somewhat is aware that Vince McMahon was writing Roman Reigns interviews for him. Yep. So we were getting dated references from Looney Tunes cartoons from the 50s.
Succotash.
Suffering Succotash.
Yep.
What was the other one? It was something about Jack and the Beanstalk, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Was spewing,
it's terrible stuff.
the basic. He was spewing off phrases from the 50s and nursery rhymes in his interviews, and it made him look terrible. There's like, how are you supposed to support this guy who's supposed to be this next big star in the wrestling business when you are treating him like a kindergarten student.
Yeah.
It
So
was
he's
bad.
butchering everything. I didn't know about that. That's
Everything about this guy. It's just he's a mid-carder at best, but he's going to be pushed to the moon.
Well, he's already being pushed to the moon
Yep.
because, you were there for the Royal Rumble, Chris. You saw the obvious retaliation that the fans had against
that was
WWE.
incredible.
Yeah.
That was incredible.
That was the first time in like a decade that The Rock got booed.
Yes,
That's
when The
insane.
Rock is eliciting boos from the crowd, it's time to throw in the towel on it.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns, as far as I'm concerned, has been dead on arrival.
Yeah.
It's too soon for him. I know that's a trite thing to say, but it really is too soon for him to be in this position.
It wouldn't be as big of a deal too if it weren't for the fact that he's going to headline against the guy who beat The Undertaker last year.
Exactly.
That he's gonna get that tip of the cap if he wins. And people are furious about that because that is the last person on the card they want to see that go to.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Well, you could even go back further than that to last year's WrestleMania in that Brock Lesnar was probably not the most popular, shall we say, choice to end The Undertaker's streak. It probably would have made more sense to give it to someone who could have used the rub, like a Daniel Bryan, like a Dolph Ziggler, like a Dean Ambrose. But instead they gave it to Brock Lesnar because in Vince McMahon's mind, he was the only credible threat to The Undertaker's undefeated streak. What do you think about that?
I agree with it to a certain extent. Like when you say like credible threat and stuff like that, Brock Lesnar is already a Hall of Famer. He is, despite the fact that he hasn't been in the wrestling business that long, and quite frankly, he hasn't done that many matches. His career already is Hall of Fame worthy. Even outside of that, Vince is probably just creaming himself thinking about the day that he gets to induct into the Hall of Fame the only person ever who's held the UFC championship and the WWE championship and was an All-American NCAA or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I mean, like, I agree with that, and I know that like there's too much of a risk for somebody like if they don't work out. Like if Roman Reigns, for example, was the guy who got pushed, and let's say Undertaker beat Brock Lesnar last year, and they decided the big rub for Roman Reigns this year would be to push him against the Undertaker. I feel like the backlash would have been way worse on a guy who's not proven versus on Brock. There's a lot of people who think that the streak should have never ended.
I
Is
firmly agree with
The
that.
Undertaker come back for this one?
Yes.
Yes, he is.
Okay.
He's going to be against Bray Wyatt this time around.
We'll get into that in a few moments. But you are definitely onto something that I hadn't considered in the fact that what you said a second ago, had they given it to someone who was unproven, the backlash could have been far worse. Definitely, even though it was an unpopular decision, you believe the fact that Brock Lesnar was the one to possibly end the Undertaker's streak. A very credible threat. I think what happened was it was like finding out that Santa Claus wasn't real, in that you believe all this time that The Undertaker will maintain his undefeated streak at WrestleMania, and then all of a sudden it is just dash in a match that, let's face it, was terrible.
Yeah.
It was a very bad match that he had with Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker last year.
There's a reason for that, though. Like, he was concussed
He was
in like the
concussed.
first 5 minutes. Like,
Oh,
I guess
really?
Taker didn't know where he
Yes.
was for half the match.
That is true.
Good for him to
yeah.
fight through that shit.
Actually, I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but WrestleMania last year, Vince McMahon left early. The first time it's ever happened to accompany The Undertaker to the hospital in the ambulance. So it was a big deal. And I guess, what went down. But as far as Roman Reigns is concerned, how do you see him being the one to defeat the one who beat The Undertaker?
I'm honestly just hoping it doesn't happen. I'm hoping Monday Brock Lesnar walks in and signs a new deal with the WWE, and Triple H gets in Vince's ear and says should not happen because the popularity's not there.
Well, I think if they were going to do that, they would have nipped it in the bud back at the February pay-per-view, which was Fastlane. The writing's been on the wall, as far as I'm concerned, for this entire main event since Jump Street, basically.
Yeah.
The crowd is adamantly split at best on Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
It depending on what city they happen to be in. Some people are booing him out of the building. Some are, lukewarm at him at best. I have yet to see since the Royal Rumble a crowd that was firmly pro Roman Reigns.
Yeah. Well, even before that, I mean, like, people, he was fairly hot before he got the hernia. But leading into it, he was still going down. Ever since they split the Shield, Roman Reigns lost value with every single month. You know what I mean? Like, he was less important every time you saw him for some reason.
Despite the fact that it was obviously on their agenda to, the big internet meme is make Roman Reigns look strong, right?
Yeah,
So he's
yeah.
beaten people that he probably has no business beating at this point in his career.
Exactly.
He's going over, who did he go over? Randy Orton at Survivor Series, was it? Or no,
No,
you said he
it
missed the
was,
Survivor Series. SummerSlam.
SummerSlam, yeah. He beat Orton at SummerSlam.
Yeah, he obviously looked very strong in the Royal Rumble 2014 before going on to win it in 2015.
We've had to suffer through about 20 Big Show matches with
Oh
him.
my God. My dream match for this WrestleMania was going to be Kane versus The Big Show in a loser leaves town match, a career-threatening match that ends in a double countout.
See,
For the love of God, people.
Kane can still go. It's just this corporate Kane gimmick. It's just ruining him.
Yeah.
Glenn can still work. That's the thing. Kane can still work really well in the ring. Like, rewind the clock like 2 years ago with Team Hell No.
That was hilarious.
That was highly entertaining, and he was in like the best shape I think I've ever seen him.
I don't dispute that. No.
Yeah, but it's like he can still go in the ring. Show is just all he does is saunter on down and give a weak punch that's supposed to knock people out all the time, and he's done. He's gassed,
Yeah, it's true. I guess he had worked one of the NXT shows about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and
Yeah.
the fans were chanting, "Please retire" at him.
Yep. Yeah, there's
And I was just like, slow clap.
yeah, it's just
That was great.
that NXT too. I know this is the WrestleMania show, but I just want to briefly say that is some of the most entertaining television I've been watching for a while now. I love this NXT brand. It makes me highly believe in Triple H when Vince finally kicks the bucket.
Well, I watched that last special they did with the NXT
Takeover, yeah.
and it definitely reminded me of like an early '90s WWF show.
Mm-hmm.
It was smaller, it was grittier, it felt more like a wrestling show as opposed to a television show that just happens to involve wrestling, like Monday Night Raw has become.
Well, the beauty of the NXT product versus like the WWE product now, and I'm gonna get a lot of harshness from this because I'll preface this by saying that the Attitude Era was amazing, but it kind of ruined wrestling for the future.
Absolutely.
Because it gave up the ability to suspend reality.
Yeah.
And with NXT, you're able to do that again. So you get these ridiculous gimmicks, but you're suspending reality. It's for the same reason that people who like vampires can watch a vampire show. You know what I mean? Like, vampires don't exist, but you can suspend reality that it's there. Now everybody who watches like WWE, they want that product to be realistic. They want that to be, it doesn't make sense. Like, how could Daniel Bryan go over Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 31? He's a midget. It doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? But like, when you watch the NXT stuff, like, I mean, one of the most entertaining gimmicks that's there right now is just this like New Jersey Gino type guy, and he's just hilarious. His name's Enzo Amore, and every time he comes out, he does this speech, and it's like the Road Dogg when he used to come out in the 90s. Like, he'll do, "My name is Enzo Amore," and everybody will be saying everything with him. They're just doing you can't teach that, and he always ends by saying like, "Oh yeah, and these guys think they're gonna beat us, then they're well, let's spell it out for you," and they'll do SAWFT, soft, and like the whole crowd just eats it up. But you don't get that on the main roster anymore. You know what I mean?
It's almost become moving from the NXT developmental brand to the main roster is almost seen as a demotion now.
Yeah, like I'm terrified of like they announced that the Access this week coming up, they're going to do like a small NXT tournament where the winner gets to be in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal.
Just for clarification, the Access is the WrestleMania fan festival. But anyways, continue.
Sorry about that.
That's fine.
Yeah, and I'm like 90% sure that they're going to bring up Adrian Neville, the guy who carried the NXT title for a while, and he's a spectacular talent in the ring. But there's already rumors going on about what Vince wants to do with him.
Yeah.
And I guess Vince's gimmick, because this guy's like, he's jacked. He was originally like a gymnast, but he's small. Like, he's a tiny guy, like short, but he's just incredibly strong and agile. And Vince wants him to come in with a Mighty Mouse type gimmick.
Again, going back to like gimmicks from the 50s
Yeah.
that Vince McMahon saw when he was a kid and figures is still relevant in the year 2015.
Do you think this is going to push him into retirement? Do you think it's finally going to nip him in the ass?
I think they're
No.
they got to rip the
Too
company
ignorant?
from his cold dead hands. It
Yeah.
just never will happen. He could be 100 years old, infirm, in a wheelchair with a colostomy bag hanging next to him, and he'll still be, with his headset on, saying, "Make sure he does the diving headbutt, damn it!"
Yeah, and you know what? In all honesty, too, like he'll never see the need to retire because the ratings will never be that bad. There will always be people like us who are marks who, no matter how much the product sucks, there's something that we can find that we enjoy about it. Like, well, at least Daniel Bryan's gonna work 2 matches and work his butt off, or at least Dolph Ziggler's gonna come out there and steal the show or something like that. Or I'm kind of interested in this sub storyline right here, even though I don't care about the main event. People will still watch. It'll never be to the same extent that it was in the like Attitude Era. Never again will it be like that, I don't think.
Well, just to tie it back into what you had said a second ago, the Attitude Era, I always felt, set the bar so incredibly high that anything else will seem, subservient to that.
Exactly.
It's just there's no getting around it. But when you look back on it objectively, the main event scene in the Attitude Era was Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Vince McMahon, Mankind, Triple H, and so on. That was very entertaining, probably the highest peak that the business will ever get.
Oh, yeah.
You look at some of the stuff that they plugged in underneath with, transvestites and pimps and, all this highly sexualized...
Whoa. You don't rip on my boy Goldie.
Sorry.
Goldust is one of my favorite workers of all time.
Sorry. I think Chris had made reference to that a couple of weeks ago,
Goldust
too.
is the man.
Yeah, he was awesome. He took a character that was complete garbage and made it last several generations.
Still going on.
Yeah.
But the point is, what was getting plugged in underneath there was usually some pretty heavy garbage.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, there was a lot of filler in that time, too, even. It's just that the main event scene was so compelling then, and, like, the talent that they had at the top, it was so easy. Like, now the traditional thing is, like, there's really, like, 2 guys that are seen as in the main event picture, and they'll have 4 pay-per-views in a row where they headline it against each other, and it's like, okay, you need to build that undercard up a little bit more. I love the idea of if Lesnar keeps the title still, like if he does stick around, of keeping that as like a main event attraction and putting the US title on Cena and the Intercontinental title on Bryan. I think that would really lift the value of those undercard titles.
Well, let's shift gears into that match then, because we have, as you said, both the United States title and the Intercontinental title up for grabs at WrestleMania. Let's talk about the Intercontinental Championship ladder match. 7 guys have been entered into it so far. Possibly an 8th will be added before WrestleMania. An 8-man ladder match has the potential to be a huge, brawl, but a garbage brawl at the same time. Do you feel that perhaps there's too many bodies involved in that match?
No, I think it's going to be a spot show. I'm looking forward to that match the most. The beauty of that match is that you've got, like, that's the workers match.
Right.
That match has all the best, like, most entertaining in-ring performers in it right now. And, like, I'm pretty excited to see how that goes.
Well, let's just recap who's in it. We got Daniel Bryan, whom you've already mentioned, Dolph Ziggler, Stardust, who is Goldust's brother, Dean Ambrose, who I mentioned before, Luke Harper, R-Truth, Bad News Barrett, who is coming in as the champion, and the possibility of Sheamus being added before Sunday. So you are seeing Daniel Bryan walking away with the title on that one.
That's my hope.
I would hope so too, because he's been treated like such a geek, like I mentioned before, ever since he came back from his injury.
The only way that I don't see Daniel Bryan walking away with that title is if Roman Reigns wins the title via turning heel. Like if Heyman happens to side with Reigns in the main event picture, because then you have a believable face that can go after, that can chase the title with Roman Reigns. But that'd be the only, unless like they're just terrible bookers, which they've done many times.
Well,
so.
The writing's certainly on the wall as far as that is concerned. They've had plenty of evidence since January to support that theory. Now, let me ask you this. You made reference to the fact that this is sort of like the workhorse match on the card. Do you agree with the sentiment that the Intercontinental Championship belt is less than worthless at this point?
It is. And it didn't used to be.
No, it didn't.
And that's the problem. Like, that was the workers' title. Like, when Bret Hart and
Shawn
Michaels and Razor Ramon, when they carried that title felt
important.
just as important as the world championship.
But that's not the
a
case
certain
anymore.
extent.
It's been
Not at all.
hot-shotted and jumped around from so many worthless, I don't want to say worthless for, the sake of being not cruel, but just people who really couldn't elevate the title into meaning anything. Like, Bad News Barrett is the Intercontinental Champion. Well, whoop-de-doo. Nobody cares.
They could have, and they missed the boat with that one too, because Barrett's not a bad in-ring worker at all.
But he's nothing special either.
No, but he's great on the mic. In the sense that, like, by the time he got injured, I'm afraid I've got some bad news, that whole Bad News Barrett gimmick had caught on so much that his return, he had a pop. When he came back, the crowd popped for him. That would have been the perfect time to make him a face. He could have come back and beat The Miz for the title.
Yeah. Well, see, there's another one there, too, in The Miz, someone who has held both the WWE and Intercontinental Championships and did absolutely nothing to increase the value of those titles. Miz, as WWE Champion, as you may recall, was the main event of WrestleMania 27, and he was treated as an afterthought to the program between John Cena and The Rock, which, of course, built to the next year's event.
Which was a shame, because even though that match was pretty god-awful, The Miz carrying that title was highly entertaining, I found. I loved The Miz as the world champion.
Oh my God.
I thought
may
it
have
was
opened a
great.
big can of worms with
Yeah,
that.
probably. I thought it was great, especially the way he took the fact that he was being treated as an afterthought leading up to that and made it work for him. Like when he came out dressed as The Rock with the bald cap on and rock bottom John Cena. And
Right.
That was gold. Like,
Fair
gold,
enough.
Jerry.
Fair enough. I think what spoiled that one for me was the fact that Michael Cole was in the middle of his own heel run at the time and was giving him that verbal fellatio on commentary for months at a time that it just became borderline annoying to even invest in that program.
Yep. But Cole, he had nuclear heat, though.
He did.
He was
probably the hottest heel in the wrestling business was their main announcer, Michael Cole.
Yeah.
And just the most irritating and his lack of knowledge about the wrestling business, which is what, Vince McMahon wants, is he wants people in the company who don't know about the wrestling business. Oh, my God. Terrible.
Just he's ashamed
terrible.
of wrestling. Vince McMahon
He's a
hates wrestling.
self-loathing wrestling businessman. So.
Maybe he's trying to take it out. Maybe that's his goal.
But pretty much.
To destroy the
He's
wrestling
from
business
the inside.
and
He's like,
remake it in his own image.
I'll make the
I'd
world
say
a better place.
Yeah.
I will destroy wrestling.
Well, Stone Cold does his podcast, and one of the special things that they've been doing on like the WWE Network, which I subscribe for $9.99.
Boo.
But one of the things that they've done is they had a live podcast, like video-wise, though, where Stone Cold Steve Austin was doing his podcast with Vince McMahon, and they also aired it live on the network when it happened, too. And at one point, Stone Cold said, like, we're in the wrestling business, and Vince immediately stopped him. He goes, no, come on. It's more than that. You know that. It's the entertainment business. I've seen you play guitar. I've seen you, which, by the way, was like the worst time in Stone Cold's career.
Also hilarious, though.
Yeah, but yeah, he was ashamed of calling it the wrestling business. He goes, that's what my father did.
That's right.
Like, it's just, God, he's so delusional. Like, it's wrestling.
That's exactly. It's wrestling. Everyone who isn't up their own ass in the business knows that it's wrestling.
Yeah.
They can't accept it for what it is. Yeah. Well, let's take a bit of a break from our discussion about the WrestleMania card. We'll get back to it in a second. We're almost at the halfway mark of our show. Let's play a game. And that game we're going to play is Know Your Theme. In this case, it's Know Your Wrestling Themes. Music, please. All right, this is a very special version of it. Usually we play this game with movie quotes, but now we're going to try it with wrestling themes. So what's going to happen is Chris is going to take his shot at guessing it first.
And I'm going to embarrass Greg with my wrestling knowledge.
Chris
has been studying up. He's been scouring like the wrestling CDs. He's all over YouTube. He's like, oh yeah, I know this one. In
I know
preparation
about
for
4
this.
wrestler names now.
He's really boning up on his WCW Nitro at this point.
Yeah, he's yeah. Great. So
the
Chris is going to
reference
take
is
his
lost.
shot, and then Greg will have a chance to steal after that. Okay,
I like that.
And we'll see whoever is going to come out on top there, non-sexually, of course. All right, so we'll start it off easy like we always do. Let's hear the first wrestling theme.
look on his face. Just trying
The
to
wheels are
figure-
turning. He's got the answer right here, and it is.
I want to say one of the Generation X guys.
Oh my God! He got it right.
Is that? Oh, that's like the group.
That is the group.
Fuck yeah!
Chris takes it early with the first one. You knew that one too, of course.
Wait, I've never heard that song
Yeah,
before in my
I thought
life.
so. Well, maybe I shouldn't have gone with the tricky one. I thought it would be easy, but okay. Let's go to the second one. Chris has got it.
I was going to say Gold Dust because it said money.
Ah, too bad. Not what we were looking for. Greg, chance to steal?
That would be the $1 Million Man, Mr. Ted DiBiase.
That is correct.
That makes so much more sense.
I should have just said $1 Million Man. It just rolls right off the tongue.
Could have said Money Inc. too.
Money Inc. would have worked. $1 Million Corporation.
Yep.
Anything like that. So Chris has one. Greg has one. Let's go to number 3.
Fuck.
Oh, you know it, Chris.
I'm just going to say The Undertaker.
Ah.
Because of the Hell reference.
No, I'm
No?
afraid not.
No?
But you're going to slap yourself silly for not knowing the fact that it was
Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon's theme.
What's great though too, that just reminded me, I saw this gif online the other day where somebody had taken Vince McMahon walking down to the ring and put Putin's head on it.
Great. Oh, bonus question, Greg. What did that song start off as? Before it was Vince McMahon's theme, it was... Do you know?
Be the corporation's theme?
No, even before that.
Really?
Yeah.
I do not know that.
That started as the theme song to the 1999 Royal Rumble, which was tagline, "No Chance in Hell."
Really?
Yes. So then it became Vince McMahon's theme. So head explodes. Good thing I'm not playing. So Greg has 2, Chris has 1, and here's number 4.
No idea, but that's my new favorite wrestler.
I saw his head immediately go with that.
He loved that. Take a stab.
Hulk Hogan.
Actually, not a bad guess.
Not a bad guess.
Not
yeah.
correct, but not bad. Greg, chance to steal?
It was Kurt Angle.
It was Kurt Angle's theme. But he also had a Mr. America type gimmick like Hulk Hogan did. So
is
that's
true, yeah,
why it
like-
made it not a bad guess. Of course, sometimes we would hear that song with "You Suck" being piped in there too.
Yeah, that started off when he was like a bad guy. Like it was they'd be the din and everybody would go the "You suck."
It's true.
Yous. And then when he became a good guy, they kept doing it, and the justification was like, "Oh, we're telling that guy he sucks."
That's right. Brilliant. So Greg has 3, Chris has 1, but not a bad guess on the last one.
It was very close.
And I think Chris is probably going to change his luck with number 5. What do you got,
They
Chris?
fucked up with that end melody there. I was getting all groovy and rocking it, and then I was like, what the hell
Then it
is that?
switched gears halfway through.
Yeah, totally.
But there's a reason for that. But
I almost had a new favorite wrestler, but they just ruined it for themselves.
Okay. Wheels are turning. The answer is
Hulk Hogan?
no. I'm afraid not, Greg.
He's really loving this Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, go.
I was just going to bounce back and forth between Hogan and Goldust.
It's
My strategy.
You'll get one
Well,
eventually.
eventually Hulk Hogan or Goldust theme will come up, but
I don't know, but based on the ending melody, I'm thinking it may have been one of British Bulldog's themes.
I'm gonna give you a partial credit on that. That was the theme song for the tag team of the British Bulldog and Lex Luger,
Oh.
known as the Allied
Allied
Powers.
Powers.
Yes.
Okay. That would make sense because I heard the dun, 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 dun,
Right.
dun, dun, dun at the end, so I was just kind of thinking, okay, British Bulldog.
You're on the right track. So we'll say you have 3.5 and Chris
don't-
has 1.
I don't want your pity point.
Fine. No 0.5 for you. So no one got that one. We'll give you the big buzzer, and now we'll go to the next one.
Rapid keyboard clap.
Yep.
That clap track is out of control. Somebody gets paid to write these, eh?
Oh, yeah.
That's embarrassing. Fuck. Hulk Hogan.
Not Hulk Hogan. Sorry. Greg?
I honestly have no clue.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. The correct answer we were looking for was Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Oh, that's why I have no clue.
Yeah, he's almost forgotten, so...
I was never a Barber fan.
Not a Barber fan.
I was a huge fan, but, I didn't want to...
He's letting you have that
one.
one.
Yeah, I'm a guest. Dude.
Yeah.
That's right.
Just go easy. Let them have this.
That's right. Chris is the undisputed champion of the Know Your Movie Quote / wrestling theme / whatever we got game, so he's got to let the new guy have a shot.
I'm just playing this ignorant character.
Yes.
I didn't want to,
So that's why you
give
have
myself
those
away.
autographed barber shears on the wall.
Oh, yeah, see, it all makes sense now. So we're still at 3-1, and now let's go to our next one. So Greg looked like he was trying to identify that. He might have a shot, but what does
Before
Chris
I answer
say?
that, I got a story for everyone.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, good story.
So
Oh, wait a second. This isn't some sort of a tactic to make him forget his answer, is it?
No, this is just kind of related to what just happened there.
Okay.
The Space Odyssey theme. Totally the same thing.
Yes, it is.
And last night, so we just finished the pull from panels thing. We worked ridiculous hours, and last night about 3 o'clock, we're like, let's watch Space Odyssey. And
Why wasn't I there for that? I really wanted
3 in the
to be
morning
there
is a
for
hard
that.
time to get a hold of you.
Yeah, well, especially when you're all the way up in Guelph, so... I would have been there in a flash, though. But anyways, continue.
Yeah, so what happened, just gotta so you understand the kind of state of mind we're in by the end of this. Last time I watched Space Odyssey, I stopped it right as the end credits started, and we put it back on, so it started with a Space Odyssey, and started rolling credits. So I figured, intro credits. We watched it for a solid 5 minutes before I caught on to what the hell was happening.
Oh, my God.
That's gold.
And beyond that, Hulk Hogan.
No, I'm afraid not. But he was on the right track in that it is startlingly similar to the 2001 Space Odyssey theme, because that is the theme song of...
I honestly,
Oh, don't even. You know this one.
I'm blanking on it. Like it kind of sounds like the start to one of Christian's songs, but it sounds older than that.
Well.
But it also kind of sounded like Chris Masters' The Masterpieces song too.
Yeah, I could definitely detect a hint of that too. But
I'll say Christian though, but
I'm afraid not. Correct answer was that is Ric Flair's first WWF theme.
well, see, Ric Flair's original run in the WWF was pretty
Awesome.
awesome, but like it ran in the background. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was clear as day that they were trying to make Hogan better than Flair.
Well, I dispute that, and just because Hogan was out of the WWF after WrestleMania 8, and then Flair stuck around for the rest of 92 and the first month of 93 before he was gone, and Hogan wasn't there, so... Contractually, yes, of course. So no point to anyone there. We're still stuck on 3-1. Maybe we can change that. Gotta love that crash symbol in there, but...
I'm just playing the odds right now. If I could get Goldust or Hulk Hogan, and you get the other ones wrong, I could tie this up.
That's true.
Hulk Hogan.
It's all right.
That's Ken Shamrock.
That is
isn't it?
Ken Shamrock's.
Damn it, there goes my chance.
Oh,
World's most dangerous man.
that is. So Greg moves his score to 4-1, pretty much eliminating Chris's
Yep.
chance of coming back. But for the sake of
What
completion,
if I answer one so wrong? Can you take
we'll
away
take
a
points
point?
off. All right, let's see what happens on the next.
Do you trust me? Do you trust me? Do you trust me? Do you trust me?
My God. People write these.
That is true. I take it your musical ear is not approving of some of this stuff.
This is hilarious.
This is music?
Somebody from the 80s?
Yes, it is.
Give him the point.
Who's an 80s wrestler? Let's go with the Big Show 80s. What's we around? I got nothing.
I was trying to motion the motion of a snake slithering because that is...
That is Skinner then, right?
Oh my God, no! It was Jake the Snake Roberts.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
God.
His voice was in it too.
Yeah, if you could make out the, hey, you trust me? Hey, you trust me? That's what it sounded like there.
I like how you did like the Jim Ross face to do that too.
Oh my god! Oh, I apologize to everybody with Bell's palsy who's listening right
But
now.
he definitely had like the mouth thing happening.
Yeah.
So. No, it was Jake the Snake Roberts theme. So no point there. But Skinner is quite a.
That's why I thought you were going really obscure. I think
Skinner
I'm
was an
overthinking
obscure
it.
reference, definitely.
See, take away a point for that.
Yeah. What are we up to now, Mr. Producer Man?
We're on number 10.
And the final one.
Oh, there's 11 here.
Oh yeah, there is 11. All right, number 10. I will be very surprised if Greg gets this one.
That was not too bad.
That sounds like it could be a real thing.
Yeah.
So what do you say?
I don't know. Gold dust?
Afraid not. Greg, take a shot at that. You want to talk about obscure? If you get this, I will be very impressed.
I don't know, just based on the tone of it, it makes me want to say Double J, but I know all of Double J's themes, so it's not Double J.
Not Double J.
I have no clue.
We were looking for Jesse the Body Ventura.
Oh, you're such a mark for him too.
I love Jess. You say that because right now on Facebook, my photo is
Jesse the Body
Jesse Ventura on one side and then me on the other side doing the same pose with the same shirt. So
Can I intervene with a quick story about Jesse the Body Ventura?
Go down.
And I
course.
literally just found this story out today. So he was in a movie with Schwarzenegger, as you know.
he was in 2 movies with Schwarzenegger.
Yep. And I guess Schwarzenegger played a joke on him where he had the wardrobe department when they were doing the measurements say that his biceps were bigger than Schwarzenegger's, and because they would work out together while they were doing the
That's
movie.
funny.
And then when Schwarzenegger, when they were talking about it, like at the gym or whatever, Jesse the Body Ventura had said, like, you know, well, I got bigger biceps than you. And Schwarzenegger said, you want to bet on it? And he found out his biceps were like 3 inches bigger than Jesse the Body. So he just made money off of him just by getting the wardrobe department. He says he's done that to other people too, but
That's
Jesse
too
the Body's
funny.
the most famous one for it.
Of course, Jesse's like having a coronary, like, this is not right.
I just found that out from Reddit today.
That's hilarious.
What a great place.
Yeah, everyone loves Reddit. All right, so no point for either of you there. I think it's safe to say that Greg is going to sweep the game because the final one, no one is going to get. I will be very surprised if...
The most upset... See, you tricked me. Earlier on, I said Gold Dust or Hulk Hogan. You said eventually I'd get it. You're a filthy liar.
I am a filthy,
And
rotten liar. I should be in the
you-
wrestling business.
What?
My whole strategy was based off that little tidbit of fake truth.
What's heavily disappointing too is that I was kind of hoping that Gold Dust theme would be in there because it's one of my favorite of all time.
That's a good one. At least I didn't throw in Isaac Yankem's theme. I think we did that in like
just a
one of the
drill.
very early episodes, the sound of a dentist drill.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
All right, the final one. No one's going to get it. Anybody?
That's very early 80s or late 70s.
Yeah.
Very early 80s or late 70s, not a bad guess. I'll give Chris the point on that just by virtue of the fact that he could identify the time frame. Take a shot at it?
It's not Brother Love, but it sounds like something that would be up his alley. But
I thought you were going to say something else.
it sounds like it'd be something right up his ass. Oh, no, I have no clue.
The correct answer is the theme song for WrestleMania 2.
That's not even a wrestler.
I never said it was limited to just wrestling wrestler themes. So
What year was that? Just so I get my own.
1986. But I mean,
Oh,
it sounds
86,
like it
that's
should be.
late 80s.
It sounds like it should be the theme song to like the Phil Donahue show or
Yeah.
something like that. You know, nothing pumps you up more for a wrestling show than like the blasting jazz sax and all that.
Woo, that really makes me want to hit somebody.
And that's how you play. Know your wrestling themes. So I was really convinced that Chris was going to win that. Like, he made me believe. He had worked me to think that he had been studying all these theme songs for weeks in preparation for the show, and apparently all you were watching were Hulk Hogan and Goldust matches. I'm sorry to say.
I did all the studying before I found out we were going to have a guest, and
Oh, well,
gotta make him feel at home.
yes. Well, congratulations, Greg. You are the victor.
I was kind of hoping he'd win. I wanted to get surprised.
Well, let's talk about some of the other matches that we have to look forward to at this year's WrestleMania.
Have to.
It's
WrestleMania play button, because we can't call
Oh,
it
yeah.
31.
I forgot about that. They should keep with that, eh?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
keeping
Oh,
with that. Sting versus Triple H. Where do you fall on that one?
I think it'll be good. You know what I mean? Like Triple H is, I mean, aside from what Bret Hart thinks, Triple H is in the top.
4 out of 10 at
Yeah,
best.
he's one of the best workers, and I mean, Sting can still go to a certain extent. Like, I mean, I don't like to talk about TNA because I just really don't like the product all that much. But even when he was there, like, he was still able to work. So I think it'll be entertaining. I don't think it's gonna be blockbuster. I mean, I think it's a shame that we didn't get Sting like 5 to 10 years ago.
I was just going to follow the question up with, you don't feel this match is like 14 years too late or anything like that?
I don't think it's too late. I think if we waited like 3 more years, it'd be too late. But I think Sting will do one match this year, and I think he'll retire next year in Texas.
Well,
At
he lives
Star.
in Texas. So
At
yeah, WrestleMania star. Yes, thank you. He is from, or he's not from Texas, but he currently resides
there,
in
yeah.
Texas, right? And so does The Undertaker, which raises the question, do you see the final match of The Undertaker's career and the final match of Sting's career being those two squaring off at WrestleMania 32?
That's a tough one.
The smart money, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but the smart money would have been to book Undertaker versus Sting immediately.
Yes.
But that's obviously not what they're doing. Do you suppose they're putting it off for next year because everything is bigger in Texas, especially WrestleMania?
I think that the only reason why they put it off is because they still didn't know whether or not Undertaker would be ready to go for WrestleMania this year, and they
That's true.
had to start booking Sting somehow
Okay.
early, especially considering the amount of dates that he had
Right.
on his contract. The tough thing with a Sting versus Undertaker match is that would be presumably both of their last matches. Would be their swan song basically in Texas.
Right.
And the tough thing with that is, how do you book a winner? You know
That's
what I mean?
true.
Because they're both like these iconic people. Like, I mean, obviously, end all be all, like, Undertaker would win. Because he's a WWE guy, he would go out on top. But the problem is I'm not so sure that Undertaker wants to go out on top. It's always been one of those unspoken things for the legends to go out losing to somebody that they respect. You know what I mean?
The funniest line I ever heard was, I think it was Jim Cornette who said, when that secret became known, was that, you heard it here first, folks. If John Wayne ever leaves like RKO and goes over to MGM, he's getting killed on the way out. You know? Like, basically the same thing works in the wrestling business. If your career is coming to an end, you get pinned. That's just the way that it works.
Yep.
But
So I'm kind of hoping they don't book that, to be totally honest.
well, maybe I said it in jest earlier between Kane and the Big Show that it ends in a double countout, but perhaps that would be the way to go, in that it's perhaps it's a last man standing match where they both get counted down. They do some kind of. It's really hard to book a double finish like that where both guys end up looking decent by the end of it.
Well, you know, I think that if I'm putting money down, it would be a triple threat with Roman Reigns next year where he pins both of them at the same time.
Oh my God. You know that McMahon is hearing that and he's just like, oh, yes, that's what I want.
His pants are currently shrinking right now.
Don't give Vince any ideas with that. Oh, God, that's funny. All right, now let's talk about The Undertaker a little bit. We obviously know he's going to be wrestling Bray Wyatt. Is the genie out of the bottle as far as The Undertaker is concerned? His streak is over. All that's left for him to do now is to come back from that and what? Lose again? Or put another notch on his winning streak, which is sizable. He's already got 21 wins. But if he wins against Bray Wyatt, that makes him 22-1. So wherein lies the excitement of this Undertaker match?
I'm going to guess an interference.
You think?
Yeah, that's all
Maybe
I
a
got.
new Wyatt family?
He might be onto something there.
That might
If
be.
they do book towards Sting versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 32, suppose it's Sting that interferes in The Undertaker's match. I could get on board with something like that.
Yeah, and they could easily run a year-long program similar to what they did with
John Cena,
and The Rock,
Yeah.
where they don't even like physically touch each other for like a year basically.
Yep.
Which sounded sexual. But
they were all over Twitter with it, you know?
the anticipation builds, and but where like Sting kind of says like, you know, you're done after last year. Like, you should have just stayed gone. You know what I mean? And they run like a retirement program like that.
But if they do that, it makes Sting look like the heel in that. Don't
I
you
don't
agree?
think that's a bad idea, though.
To make Sting the heel over the Undertaker.
I mean, because in all honesty, like, he could get away with it with being like a heel, but not thinking that he's a heel. Like that whole, because his whole gimmick since they've come back, that they've drilled down our throat thanks to Michael Cole or down our ears thanks to Michael Cole, is the vigilante Sting, the vigilante, and he's here to save us, or he's here to pull some Jericho stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I think like he could say like, you know, you were done, like you had an amazing career, but you lost last year. You should have just stayed gone. Like they could easily do something like that.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, to go back to the question that I asked originally, how do they do an Undertaker match when the magic is gone? Basically,
I don't think the magic's gone.
You don't think that has a bearing on this year?
I think the streak is and was an important thing, but now that it's out of the way, I think it actually kind of makes it a little bit more interesting because you don't know if Bray Wyatt's going to win or if he's going to lose. I personally think he's going to lose. I think you can't have The Undertaker come back from last year's loss and lose again unless he's retiring this year. Which
is not an impossible thought to have either, because we thought last year, no way is the streak going to come to an end. Yeah. And I guess apparently the decision to end it didn't come down until the very day of.
Yeah, it was like 4 hours before the show or something like that they decided on it.
Right. So, I mean, it could go either way. I think you make a very good point in that now that the streak is out of the way, it leaves the match more ambiguous. That being said, I think that, like you said also, Bray Wyatt's going to end up on the short end of the stick there. That The Undertaker, you can't come back from a year-long absence where he hasn't been seen from, heard from, nothing, and just beat him into the ground again. It devalues him further than it already has, to the point where it's like, well, The Undertaker is coming back for WrestleMania 32. Who really cares, right? So I'm hoping that The Undertaker is the one who gets the victory on that.
What they could do, too, what could be interesting is, again, long-term booking. I think that if they do something where like the match just gets out of hand, because this is the first Undertaker match in who knows how long at WrestleMania where it's not no disqualification.
Well, last year's wasn't no disqualification either.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
good point. Wait, no, I thought they made it no disqualification at last minute, didn't they?
I don't think so.
No?
They may have, but I don't really remember that. In any event.
Regardless, like, what would you think of something where, like, you know, Undertaker has a phenomenal showing, but Bray Wyatt gets disqualified, losing the match, and leaves The Undertaker broken and battered and has to come back for one more next year, and that's the ultimate send-off for him. It's like a rematch between Bray Wyatt and The Undertaker.
Honestly, I think that card has been played, because if you remember back to WrestleMania 27, The Undertaker did defeat Triple H, but he couldn't leave under his own power, even though Triple H could. So they built the whole year of, you know, where's The Undertaker been? Is he all right? Blah blah blah. Is he coming back? So I think they've done that deal already. Honestly, I think a disqualification finish in an Undertaker match is god-awful. I'm thinking back to that one at WrestleMania 9 where he won by disqualification against the Giant Gonzalez. The less said about that match, the better. So now that we've run down the card, basically, let's talk a little bit about the history of WrestleMania. How long have you been watching wrestling, Greg?
Pretty much my whole life, but like really intensely watching it. I can remember around WrestleMania 10.
That was your first WrestleMania?
That was the first one that I can really remember watching.
Okay.
Like,
which is a great show. Yeah. It still holds up to this day. I was watching it the other day. Great. Mine was, this is my 20th year of watching WWE. Started right in the build for WrestleMania 11. Didn't see it when it aired, but WrestleMania 12 was my first one. So the Iron Man match with Shawn Michaels and Bret the Hitman Hart. Where do you see the evolution of WrestleMania going from when you first started watching at WrestleMania 10 to where it is now? Do you think it was better before, or is it better now, or is it about the same?
WrestleMania 30 is possibly my favorite WrestleMania.
Talk about last year's.
Yes, I thought it was great. I thought everything about it was great. It felt huge.
Right.
It had a great storyline with the opening match being Daniel Bryan making it to the end of the third match and being carried out in a stretcher and coming back and winning the thing. Like that beautiful storytelling. I am in the minority in that I loved the moment of the Undertaker losing. Although I may not have liked that decision.
I think Chris likes that moment too.
People lost their shit.
It was so cool. Like, we're sitting there, and it was a write-off match, and what made it so interesting was that it didn't seem as big of a deal, that match leading up to it. Like, the build was not as good as the previous 4 years that we had of Undertaker matches, and it was like where you're all sitting there like, and 1, 2, and kick it. Wait.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah. So we're all just sitting there like, no, they made a mistake, right? Like, they screwed up. How are they going to fix this? And Heyman in the corner with the, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I just thought that was so cool. Like, that was a hell of a moment.
Well, just to add on to something like that, I'd really like for Chris to describe his reaction to seeing the rest of us lose our beans at the house party there when we were watching that last year.
Yeah, it was what is this ground? Like, everyone was just like, oh, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
Like just absolute disbelief. Like no one in the room.
Disbelief.
Yeah.
No, it was just like silence, and then like after a couple seconds, just big like, what? Like
It was hilarious.
And in all honesty, I kind of thought that was one of Vince's best ideas. I think it was gold because, you know, it's kind of like when your favorite character dies in a TV show. Like, you're pissed that your favorite character's gone, but you're like, wow, what a moment. And in retrospect, you look back at it, you're like, and if you're showing that show to somebody, you're like, wait for it.
Right.
Like, I've probably gone back and YouTubed that moment quite a few times throughout this year. You know what I mean?
The audience too. There's the disbelief. Yeah, the faces. And
I have
just
this
ridiculousness.
amazing GIF on my phone of the one guy who's just doing this,
Oh yeah,
The face palm extraordinaire.
which has been used a million times on reaction GIFs on Reddit now, which is so gold.
Well, even funnier than that is you go on YouTube and you find live reactions to The Undertaker's loss. This is people at their houses watching this and them just losing their brains in person there. It's hilarious. Yeah, the evolution of WrestleMania, though, from 10 to 12 to 30, I think it definitely has reached peaks now that it are unrivaled, quite frankly, from when I first started watching. Do you feel that perhaps the hype is a little too good for its own good? I kind of phrased that poorly, but in any event, do you think that the hype is sort of out of control for WrestleMania now? Because I think it gets to the point where the hype is so high that anything that it delivers is ultimately going to underdeliver. What do you think about that?
I disagree because, like I said, I mean, last year I thought it delivered great. Last year I thought it was amazing. This year I don't get the same hype feeling. You know what I mean? Like, I care about certain matches, and I'm going to watch it, obviously.
Right.
But it's not the same, so I don't think that the hype is necessarily there. I think you still need to have that investment in, like, some of the matches, you know what I mean? And really, the only match that I really, 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 really am excited to see, like, aside from Bray Wyatt and The Undertaker, which is just special event, or special attraction, you know what I mean? Like, you get to see The Undertaker come back and cripple his way through another match, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
But the only one I really, really am excited to watch, like, I'm going to obviously watch all of it, but is the Intercontinental title ladder match.
The ladder match.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us back to WrestleMania 10. The first ladder match on a pay-per-view between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon has been heralded as one of the greatest matches of all time. Certainly a game changer as far as the wrestling business is concerned. Where do you see the ladder match delivering this year where the rest of the card won't, just by virtue of the fact that it's a ladder match, or the people involved, or
People involved, and I mean, those, like, it's essentially like a Money in the Bank ladder match this time around, and those were always highly entertaining. I think you've just got the best guys in the ring. I think you're gonna see Luke Harper do something absolutely insane.
why Luke Harper?
Because Luke Harper is so underutilized right now. Like, if you watch any of his indie videos, like, the guy can do like a running Hurricane Rana, and he's built like a brick shithouse. Like, he's huge.
What's a running hurricane?
It's where you jump. It's where you jump up, wrap your legs around somebody's head, and flip backwards and throw them with your legs. And this guy is like, and you just wrap your legs around his head and just but
Also
this
not
guy
sexual,
is
yes.
humongous. Like, this guy's like, he's like tubby like me, you know, and like tall, like almost like he's got to be close to 7 feet tall, and he just looks like a woodsman. Like, he has this giant dirty beard, and he wrestles in jeans and a stained wife beater. You know what I mean? But like he does this crazy stuff that nobody like knows that he can do because Vince doesn't really like the idea of him doing it. But I think in a ladder match like setting like that, he can kind of get away with doing it. So I have a feeling he's gonna have some pretty cool, shocking moments that's just gonna make people go like, "Whoa, this is insane!" Like. I don't know.
Well, we're just about out of time. We've got about 5 or 6 minutes left, so I want to throw a couple of questions at you before we wrap up. One, just to tie back into what we were talking about a second ago, do you feel that in your 20 years watching, that this has been one of the, because you had mentioned that you weren't as hyped for this year as you were for last year, do you suppose this has been one of the worst builds to a WrestleMania on record? As far as your experience is concerned. Because I will say, in the 20 years I've been watching, I can't recall seeing a poorer build to WrestleMania than this year.
Yeah, 100%. It's up there. It's up there with one of the worst builds that I've ever seen.
It's just lackluster and phoned in, and, they have the potential to deliver a really great event if they had just played their cards a little bit differently.
You know what, though? The beauty of something like that is when your expectations are low, sometimes you can get a surprise.
Well, that's
you
true.
Know what I mean? So I think you can't really count it out until it's actually happened. I think the people going into it just being like, oh, this is going to be awful. Those smart marks, basically, online who think that they can always book something better. Because I know I think that all the time.
I'm guilty of that, too.
But I
put
love
a pretty good one.
Yeah, I love the idea of just, like, still watching it unfold and giving it the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean?
Well, I believe it was Jim Ross who had said on his website that WrestleMania is like the Super Bowl in that even though perhaps your team doesn't make it to the Super Bowl, you still become emotionally invested in the game by virtue of the fact that it's the Super Bowl. It's still WrestleMania, and it's like Christmas for WWE fans everywhere that everyone sits up and pays attention to it. Even if you've dropped off of following it week to week or even month to month, you still tend to drop back in for WrestleMania just to see what kind of shape the company is in, who's the top players now, and so on. Which leads me to my final question, which is, what do you suppose is ultimately going to be the result of WrestleMania 31 / play button?
We talking about the main event?
I'm talking about, at the end of it, what are people going to say about WrestleMania 31?
Man, what a great Intercontinental title ladder match that was. No, you know what? I think that I have some ideas for some moments that I think are going to happen that are probably going to make it memorable. I think that the main event, if Brock Lesnar wins, people will walk away happy. Or if Roman Reigns turns heel and like Paul Heyman joins Roman Reigns, that can kind of save it. You know what I mean? But I think if they just go with what everybody thinks they're going to go with, I think you're going to get a lot of sour taste in the mouth. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because when something like that happens, another door opens the next night on Monday Night Raw. Like, whenever something like that, like if you remember correctly, the whole Daniel Bryan yes movement came from the fact that people were so angry that Vince McMahon booked Daniel Bryan to lose a match in like 17 seconds on WrestleMania. You had like the best worker, who everybody knows is amazing in the ring, and he just turned around, got kicked, and lost the world title the night before. And so the whole crowd just took over Raw the next night, to the point where Daniel Bryan, who was supposed to be a bad guy, they were chanting for him all night, that once the cameras went off, John Cena brought out Daniel Bryan to like lead the crowd and like in this whole thing. And that birthed this character that we know of as Daniel Bryan now. So if something like that happens where Roman Reigns walks in, nuclear heat is going to be the next night, and that'll change something.
That is a game changer, and you make a very interesting point in that since that happened, which was at 28, I believe, the next night on Monday Night Raw has become the most anticipated show of the year, to the point that this year they're calling WrestleMania the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania pre-show, right? Just because the crowd is probably filled with, a bunch of hardened wrestling fans that are smart to the business, and they want to cheer who they want to cheer for, and they want to let the company know how they feel. And they take over, and that's how Daniel Bryan got hot, like you just said a second ago. So I definitely agree with the fact that if they deliver a very poor WrestleMania, which is not an impossible task, I'm being frank, I'm hoping for the best, but I'm prepared for the worst. If that does happen the next night on Raw, the crowd is going to go nuclear, as you said. Honestly, at this point, like I said a few minutes ago, and this is my opinion, they've done such a poor build to WrestleMania this year that I think the way things are stacked right now, it's going to end up looking like going down as one of the worst WrestleManias of all time, up there with 9, 11, 2, just ones that people say like, oh, that was just awful.
Awful, yeah.
I think that the main event between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns is going to be drowned out by chance of Daniel Bryan. If it becomes leaked that Brock is leaving the company, which is certainly a very big possibility still too, because his contract is up that day, I believe. If it leaks that he's leaving like it did at WrestleMania 20 when he left, we're going to get chance of you both suck. The crowd is just going to take over and entertain themselves.
Yeah. I think. What do you think if it leaks that Brock Lesnar's leaving, but it's a work, and Lesnar wins the match and has that other shock moment again?
I am hoping that happens.
That would be a markout again. That would be another is he leaving with the title again? Like CM Punk did, or
right?
Yeah.
I'm always good for being surprised when it comes to WWE. Unfortunately, the last couple of times we've been surprised negatively. So I can only hope they can turn a negative into a positive. So, in any event, like we said a second ago, it's WrestleMania, and you have to watch it.
You're gonna watch it.
You're gonna watch it. You can say like, "Oh, I hate this company. I'm never watching this again." You know, you're gonna be there for WrestleMania.
I got a prediction for next year.
What's that?
Depending on how this year goes, it could be WrestleMania stop button
Oh,
or rewind.
I think you're onto something there.
What are they going to use? Like, they're going to run out of these little charms, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
WrestleMania smiley face.
Yes.
I'm waiting for WrestleMania Pepsi logo, really.
Yeah.
They have to find like the Pepsi Stadium somewhere first. I think there's a Pepsi arena. There's a Pepsi arena, so yeah. Pepsi, WrestleMania Pepsi. Or WrestleMania like Batman logo or something like that.
Well, I always used to get a kick out of like one of the things that me and my old roommate used to laugh at is just like whenever you had like this like serious sporting event like UFC or whatever, and it was sponsored by this ridiculous sponsor that'd be like, UFC Fight Night is sponsored by Taco Bell, and it's like, head for the border. It's like, well, yeah, because UFC fighters are eating Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Like,
WrestleMania brought to you by Maxi Pads or something like that.
Stop the leak.
And now that we've outgrossed Chris, I think it's time to wrap it up. Anything you want to add, Greg, before we sign off?
No, I mean, this was fun for me. I could talk wrestling all day.
I think a follow-up show, get Greg back.
Well, that's entirely dependent on what Greg wants to do.
I'd love to do a follow-up show. It doesn't even have to be a wrestling themed one if you guys want.
Well,
I'm
I have
always willing if you guys are bored.
I have no doubt that we'll have you back on the show at some point. Chris, I'm glad that you were here too, because you're here all the time.
Yeah,
and
I
couldn't very well do the show myself. I don't have the studio. It's just not in my power.
I felt like I contributed a lot tonight, and I really stepped up everyone's
you shouldn't talk so much,
expectations
really,
for the
though,
events.
seriously.
Yeah.
So WrestleMania, of course, this Sunday on pay-per-view, WWE Network, blah, 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 etc. I'm not Vince's shill man. You can find whatever. Stream it. I don't care.
Oh, well, I probably shouldn't say this, but I know a site where you can stream it pretty easy.
We don't want to give away that particular information. Streaming is illegal, and we do not support it, and that's not what we're going to do.
Hey, I'm a network subscriber, so I don't
by his
need
own
to, I'm
admission.
just saying.
And I don't want to pay $9.99. I want to pay $65 for the... Nobody does. No, I'll probably end up finding a suitable location to see it from. Greg? All right, we're going to say farewell for this particular episode of The Amusing Show. So, for Chris Toll, for Greg Baker, this is Kyle T. Haight saying that was amusing.